Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Inworld review. It is, of course, for those of you who don't know, I don't know myself until I look here, 17th of March. But the thing I do know, of course, is that it's St. Paddy's Day. So if you're watching this show live, you've probably just seen us over at Metaverse Week in Review with a couple of St. Paddy's clips. And also a very interesting clip, a guitar-playing astronaut, which I had my eyes on earlier. We also saw the opening of an El Dorado sim on OpenSim, a little bit of a trailer for Skin Fair that's happening in World here in Second Life. Some cubes from CASA, which is the geographic people in London, and an extended teaser for the Leap Motion device, which... we've been talking about for ages, but they've been showing it off at South by Southwest this year, so we got a bit of a closer look at it there. Anyway, we'll no doubt be discussing a few of these things as time goes by on the show, so to speak. Well, this week, this is the week I lost my faith in the cloud. I think it's safe to say. It's not just related to the metaverse, of course, but for those of us who have to scan an awful lot of news very quickly, RSS news readers really are something we can't live without. At least I can't live without. And I used to use several news readers, but ultimately I ended up with Google Reader, which is online. It syncs across all my machines and is now going. Yes, Google have announced that they're closing Google Reader, which in itself seems to be a very strange move, as far as I can see. We hear lots of scare stories about people like Google sort of tracking our habits online and building up huge databases. And I would have thought, to be honest, monitoring feeds that one reads day in and day out would be a very good way for Google to access sort of information about my habits and also the other people who use Google Reader. But apparently not. There's no adverts on it. And for some reason, they've decided that RSS is a thing of the past and they want you to use Google Plus, or, well, they want you to use Google Plus, but they seem to think that Twitter and Facebook are somehow replacements for RSS feeds. And they're not. So I've been looking around. There are other options coming up. My principal need in a newsreader, apart from being able to read the news, is to have quick scripts I can add in to publish items to the different places I want them to go. And secondly, that the reader itself is synced across all my devices so that I can scan through everything quickly on my iPad and not really do much other than read. And then I can come to a workstation and take the saved items that are perfectly synced on both machines and send them off to wherever they've got to go. So that's a little bit of a moan for me today, although it does raise the issue of the fact that I'm really becoming a bit disillusioned with the idea of the cloud. I mean, the phrase the cloud to me has always described what the web and the internet has been anyway. But the idea that we're keeping all our data online and we're even relying on our, looking at Adobe software, for example, that is increasingly being launched via the cloud instead of being given to you in boxes on the shelf. I notice I haven't got my lips moving again, so I've just put them on. Sorry about that, folks. I was a talking mute for a minute. The problem here is that if any of these cloud services or any of the chain that connects us to these cloud services goes down, or part of the cloud that you rely on goes out of business or changes its policies, you really have no backup of any sort. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work playing around to set up a system that's an alternative to Google Reader once I even find a service that will do it. And obviously things change. I'm not bemoaning that so much, but there seems to be something about cloud services that potentially would be an absolute dream, having them available everywhere, anytime. But the fact that most of these are private services, you've got no comeback if they just disappear or change their terms of service. This is something I'm increasingly unhappy about. And closer to home here, as you know, we moved a lot of this program Inworld a couple of months ago simply because the recording abilities of live stream. Our channel seemed to be flaky at best. A service that was once brilliant at doing a whole lot of things is now less than brilliant at doing anything other than broadcasting. And this morning we almost went up the wall because we couldn't even get into Livestream Studio, but fortunately that seemed to be a very temporary glitch. Anyway, that's me on my soapbox for the week. Goodbye, Google Reader. Long live Google Reader. Apparently, the Google API is going to be used by everybody under the sun to make their own Google Reader. So we'll probably have a replacement before long. Okay, in the other metaverse news, I should say. Well, this one is particular to Linden Labs, who runs Second Life. Surreptitiously, I think is the best word. They have been approaching various educators who have left the Second Life grid and offering discounts to get them back in again. Now, many educators will probably say they don't believe a word of it, another year and they'll go to full price again or something. But there is some controversy here because they've when it comes to enterprise and education, Second Life have not really been interested for a considerable time. And now suddenly with their need to get more people renting Sims again, they seem to be scrabbling around offering discounts that they flatly refused to give or maintain a year or so back. So a bit of controversy over that one. And also from my Twitter feed of the week, I have a website called 3D, that's the number 3, sorry, 3D Web Think Tank .wordpress.com. And they've reported some news on Intel and something called SWTC are seeking role players for a user scalability experiment. And all this ties in with the Moses grid, which of course is an open public grid of sorts, although it is actually run by the US Army's Research Development and Engineering Command. I'm not even going to try and abbreviate that. Anyway, they're looking for people to take part in this experiment, and it'll be on Friday, March the 22nd, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. So that's what is that? That's 3 to 5 p.m. Second Life time. So we will come back to that a bit later, I think. Right. Well, enough of my headline news. I will no doubt have a few more things when we get into discussion later. But meanwhile, I think it's about time to go over to Tara, who is dutifully sitting next to me, and get her sort of roundup of the week. So over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mal. I trust my lips are moving here for benefits of cameras. And a happy St. Patrick's Day. You may notice if Yes. If Pet Love zooms in, sitting on the arm of my chair today is a very special kitty. This is a St. Patrick's Day kitty, and was born this morning. And I actually unboxed her this morning. Periodically, the Kitty Cats does a random release, and St. Patrick's Day and Mardi Gras have been the two occasions that come immediately to mind when they have released random kitties with costumes, and this is the one for St. Patrick's Day today. So she's very cute, and she's very tiny, but she will get bigger. So that's the good news. Mal, your comments about your disillusionment with cloud computing, certainly it's certainly a big pain when the cloud rains on your parade.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had to get that one in there. It was just demanded. And in the same sort of vein, Lapician, who runs InView, has had a major disaster of data loss that he's still attempting to recover from. Apparently, he was attempting an upgrade and apparently must have clicked on the wrong button, and a vast horde of machinima were deleted in Probably a single keystroke and a failure to respond or to get a "do you really mean to do that" message to cause one to pause. But in the same vein, the other issue that has come up in the last couple of weeks regarding cloud computing and the issues around it. The SimCity launch. Now, SimCity obviously is a game, and we don't really cover games, but there is a kind of a long-standing connection, I think, between a lot of early Second Life folk and the online Sims game, because there were a number of people who migrated over here from the Sims when the Sims shut down, and the issue with the SimCity launch was. There was lots of great pre-release, pre-opening buzz of a very positive sort, and it got such wide exposure that they completely missed on estimating how many people were going to want to get in. And so it resulted in some days worth of inability to get in, getting logged off, and just generally horrible experience for a lot of people who are trying to get in, which of course has left EA with a certain amount of egg on their face. But it certainly raises one of the issues that I see with cloud computing, and that is that providers, and especially in the the arena of virtual worlds and any multiplayer situation, really kind of have to be. Have pretty good crystal balls to try to guesstimate how much bandwidth they need to have set up to handle, to handle however many people want to get in at any given time, and so you've got this it's often referred to as it's a bandwidth issue, but that demand thing is fiendishly hard to predict. How much is the whole thing going to scale up when you hit it with 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 people all at once? Lots of things go down, and certainly that's an issue all over the web where some poor website gets has something that hits the news, and they're used to 50, 100 people coming by a day and hitting the site, and all of a sudden that number gets 2 more zeros added on, and sure enough the site goes down. so it's always been I've always taken the cloud thing as somebody's idea of a nice buzz, because Mal's absolutely right. We're talking about what's stored on the web as opposed to what's stored on your local computer. And I think the only thing that's given cloud computing real traction, other than this great promise of endless storage and ostensibly speed, because that was part of what Amazon built their use of the term cloud computing on, was using multiple computers to accomplish single tasks, is the fact that you are dependent. And sure, lots of people have, lots more people have high speed access now, but even with high speed access is still slower than what can potentially happen if it's all local. That's a reality that I think a lot of people don't realize, and especially if you're talking using Wi-Fi, where your speed drops rather noticeably from what it is with a wired connection. Wi-Fi has improved. There's been a lot of increase there too, but it's kind of like there's a whole lot of technology pieces involved in cloud computing working well, and then we have all the security issues. So, I certainly don't view it myself as the be-all and end-all, given all the other things that can go sideways, wrong, and just plain not work. So, good, Mal. I think that the plus out of the what's happening with Google Reader could be that you will end up with more options and better options, even. So certainly watch that one with a lot of interest. Anyway, certainly I think that that bit of news of Linden Labs selectively approaching some nonprofit and educational institutions for discounted sim rentals has gotten quite a bit of comment, I think is the word I would use. Obviously, there's a lot of jaundiced comment about that of saying, gosh, gee whiz, they should have figured that out 2 years ago when they pulled the plug, or when they announced the plug pulling on nonprofit rates. And pointing out, the multiple issues, aside, in addition to price, that are issues for nonprofits and educational institutes. Along the way. So it's, I think it's another situation where, I think this might be the first Linden Lab bad press issue of the year. We have these issues that come up once or twice a year where the lab pulls some number that everybody kind of reacts to, that really puts a very bad spin on how the lab is managing things. And I think this could well turn into that for for at least the current time period. It's the first real thing like that's come up this year that I can think of. So, let's see. There was one more issue I had on here. One more item. Yeah, and this is for fun. Strawberry Singh, blogger, started a meme this week on. For suggesting that people list 7 Second Life facts about themselves that most people don't know about. And it's pretty fun reading through some of the responses to this. In part, it's interesting because her reach is particularly among the fashionista community, which blogs I don't tend to read at all. But one that there's a theme that's come up in several places that I thought was quite interesting, and I suspect some of other people here, either Anna or Saffia, may have comments on this one. The number of people who indicate that they really tend to hang out only in their home spot, and they don't tend to IM people because they're worried about interrupting, or they're shy. Or those kinds of things. I found that very interesting. How many blogs I was finding who had added that as one of their comments about themselves. But I think the winner was one that I saw today, and I did not make a note of who said it, but they said that sometimes they TP into clusters of dots just to see what's up, and their best landing was an elves reading poetry, and their worst landing was pony sex.
The good old days.
The good old days, yeah. Anyway, and among strawberries, she said she only joined SL because of CSI. For those of you who were around back then, the CSI series did a show that featured Second Life. Although it wasn't specifically, as I recall, it wasn't really identified as yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
It was identified as Second Life, and they had a Second Life sim. Or Sims for CSI.
It's the most unrealistic episode ever.
That episode. Yeah, the filming on that was just total
exactly.
Yeah, and it wasn't any better in the follow-up when they brought it back around again a couple months later with a sequel show. I forget how that all worked out, but anyway, that was interesting to find somebody who actually came in because of that CSI Second Life connection, and her comment was that the thing that was too bad was that Sims were already gone by the time she got here. She must have seen a rerun. Anyway, I think that's it for me for the moment. So I'll toss it back to you, Mel, and I know we've got lots of other folks here today.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tara. Interesting stuff, as always. Right, we probably heard some voices butting in there already, so I think the first thing I better do is introduce the other folks we've got in the studio. To my right, as ever, I've got Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia.
Hello, Mal.
And especially guesting next to Saffia today, I've got... Aeonix Aeon.
He did it.
He did it.
He can be taught.
He can be taught. I call him Will Smith because that's the name I've got on Skype.
It's Will Burns, man. Come on, it's your last name now. How'd you get one right and miss the other?
Okay, my gag routine is going to pieces here, isn't it? Yes, he is my namesake. But not related. Not related. I keep my distance. Anyway, well, I've actually interviewed Will over on Crossworlds, and I don't think you've been on this program before, have you, Will?
No, I don't believe so.
No, not this one.
It's the first time for me.
Oddly enough, when I asked Will to come on earlier, sort of his immediate thought was to go to the Google Hangout, of course, which we haven't actually had the first Hangout yet. But as many of you know, when we decided to come in World, we thought we'd run a series of Hangouts at some point in the future to keep the sort of the RL camera faces active, so to speak. So that will be we'll do the first one shortly as soon as I've got enough people in the crowd, so to speak. But yeah, anyway, welcome, Will. We'll come back to you shortly. And finally, another familiar face here on the show, way over at the other end of our city where Petlo's panning now. We've got Honor McMillan. Welcome, Honor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Mel.
Of the blog, Another Day, Another Destination. She doesn't call it that, but that's what I call it. Every day there's a new blog and there's a new place to discover, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit shortly. I think, as usual, however, I will start with Saffia. Saffia is always a mine of information about things going on at the moment, and also, of course, we'll probably be hearing about Designing Worlds tomorrow and anything else coming up. So welcome, Saffia. What's new with you?
Hello. Well, the Relay for Life has thoroughly kicked off now, and Fashion for Life is in full flood. So I went over there this week and picked up a few outfits. The bills are absolutely fantastic. Well worth a visit just to go around and look at those alone. As Frolic was on the show last week and talking about it, they are the 7 wonders of the world, and the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And what the builders have done with it is fascinating and quite breathtaking at times. So well worth going over and having a look at that. I did some shopping. There's plenty to buy over there. Most of the leading designers are there, and they seem to have brought out new collections, especially for the fair, some of which are available in the Relay for Life vendors. People have made a real effort this year, I think, to make sure that what's in the vendors for Relay for Life is really nice quality stuff. I try, when I go to visit these fairs, maybe to take down names to go and visit the stores later, but I always try and buy just from the Relay for Life vendors, and I managed to pick up a few things there.
If I might interject briefly, Saffia.
Mm-hmm. That's the top from Spiral, isn't it?
Right. This is a Relay for Life top. I've spent some time the last couple of days visiting, and I would absolutely second your motion. It's some of the builds in there are just amazing. There's one of them that I thought was particularly fantastic. There's a one of the Sims is the Colossus, and it's this I don't know how many meters tall figure. And the shops in that particular sim are all inside the Colossus. It's and you have to walk up this curvy, spirally stair path to visit the various shops. And of course, it's one of those where you keep feeling like you're going to fall off any minute. But and today is the last day, so go if you haven't.
It really is wonderful. And then, of course, the next big fair that will come out is the Fantasy Fair, which will be the end of April. And that will be worth looking forward to as well. I'm making a documentary about that at the moment. So I've been going over and interviewing people, and that's promising to be pretty exciting too. And then before the relay itself happens in the summer, of course, then there's the Home and Garden Expo, and I'll be talking more about that in a few weeks. And there's other events that could happen this summer. Can't say too much at the moment.
Just little things.
Just little
tiny
things. Little tiny things. Yeah.
I do love this. This is the second week running. I was doing this last week, I think. We had her on the show. There's lots of, there's some things going to be happening, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I thought, great show.
This one, hold on to your seat for a couple of weeks, and then it's going to be all over everywhere. We hope.
Oh dear, I have to hold on to my seat for that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She duct taped me to mine.
Is it that riveting? Is it that riveting where you need to do that? And you just do the, you don't need to pay for the entire seat because you only need the edge.
Absolutely.
Oh, so I look forward to whatever it is. We'll have to unpackage it.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Anna. Unless there's anything else immediate, Saffia.
Nothing else immediate. No.
Any events, Anna, that you have on the horizon that?
Well, there's that I can speak about.
Yeah.
It does limit things. Okay, let me do three things. First of all, let me respond to your comments on the cloud. And I'll point out that my first reaction, which was totally out of step with the entire rest of the world when they announced the cloud, was, oh my God, we're going back to dumb terminals again. Because
absolutely. I said exactly the same thing.
Exactly, because that's what I grew, when we first started out having computers in business, and they had these central mainframes, and we all had dumb terminals, so we didn't have any data on our desks. And the central mainframe would go down, and we'd all be stuck, and everybody'd lose things, and we couldn't. And then it all became desktop computing, and we had control, and we had privacy, and we had all sorts of things. And they flipped back around, and suddenly it's new. I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Cloud computing is the future.
Oh, I don't want
to rent my desktop. That's what it boils down to: renting your desktop and access to it. And I'm like, I don't want to rent it. I just want to buy it. Leave me alone.
The second thing. What was the other thing we talked about? Oh, I know. And this probably puts me out of step with the rest of the world as well. But it would seem to me that if a company made a decision and the decision was a mistake, and a couple of years later they went, well, shoot, and actually, reversed their position, spending all of your time talking about how they made the mistake in the first place is a lot like a guy complaining that his wife never forgets anything. I mean, it would seem to me that an organization should be able to change their minds and move forward, and without having to relive the sins of the past forever. But that's just me.
I think if you say I screwed up, if you actually admit, okay, we screwed up, made a bad decision, but we're going to fix that, then it's okay. Then you don't. Then you got to let it rest. But if you try to sweep it under the rug and say, we never made a mistake, or we're not admitting anything, no, I'm going to hammer that into somebody's head. I'm like, no, you screwed up. You need to admit it. Then move on.
I have no doubt that there are a lot of people in Linden Lab who need to learn how to fall on a sword, and they also need to learn how to implement things in a sane fashion. Absolutely, I do. And so I could focus on, gee, guys, you could have done this a better way, like changing their mind, but not go back 2 years. Anyway, that's just me. The third thing I'll tell you is that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I believe, the Linden Endowment for the Arts grant applications had been out there and then closed, and have been awarded for this fourth round. They were only awarded a little over a week ago, but there are some amazing builds already on those islands. So if you type LEA as one word into your map, go to Leah 13. If you remember Seeka Ghost's installation from the last round, which was black and white and two-dimensional and just incredible. This time is Rust, and it's just astounding. It's 3D, there's movement, there's the most gorgeous rusty metallic elephant I've ever seen in my life, and he winks at you and you lose your heart. It's an amazing place to go. But there are the majority of the grants were awarded to artists who have not exhibited at Linden Endowment for the Arts before. In fact, in some cases, they've never exhibited at all. And there's some beautiful stuff being built that you really need to go see. Go see what people are building. That's the exciting news today.
Right. Yeah. We actually, I think, Saffia read out a list. I think it was last week of all the people we've got this time. So yes, wonderful to see new stuff coming in there. I thought you had a good phrase there when you referred to the fact that Linden Lab need to learn how to fall on their sword.
Yes,
I think that is the one thing that I thought was bad, that they were contacting behind the scenes, not publicly saying we're giving discounts, but contacting people off the record saying, can we get you back if we give you a discount, kind of thing. So it wasn't something as simple as putting out an advert saying, oh, advertisers, we're so sorry. Oh, educators, we're so sorry. We didn't really mean to you like that. Come back, calls are given, half price, folks. They've been selective about it. And I think, I don't like that. So they've probably been going to the prime ones of their choice that they think they really ought to get back, rather than sort of putting out a public announcement saying sort of everybody come back, we'll give you a discount. So it's that attitude, I think, that is more bothersome on that front. Okay, let's move back over to Will.
Hello,
I'm not going to mention that surname.
It's your own name, man. It's
Aeonix. Aeon. Okay, I still got it sort of.
She'll get it.
What are your thoughts on all this? Now, I know you have a particular interest in the technology side of things from previous experience, of course. I don't know how much you use things like newsreaders or cloud services. Is it something that disturbs you, or you're quite happy with at the moment?
It disturbs me for probably a different reason altogether. As far as I'm kind of stuck off about that, but for that,
Yeah.
Hello,
Well,
how's that?
yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Sorry about that. Sometimes it's not just cloud services that go awry, it's things like Skype as well. So let's just check our voices. Have we got you, Saffia?
Hello, I'm here. Yes, I should be here because I'm now holding the call.
Oh, wonderful. That helps.
Good point.
We've got Tara, and we've got Honor. Have we got you, Will?
I'm back as well. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Your voice is clear now. So let's go back to you, Will.
What was the last thing we all heard before the voice blew up?
What you think?
It started at the beginning, I think. You were pretty. Anyway, it went down about the time.
Okay, so as far as Google Reader is concerned, I'm ticked off about it, but not for the obvious reason, because you can always just export the XML of your list and then import it into another reader. I'm more worried about Google dictating the trend of not using RSS anymore in the context of everything should be more social media where it can be tracked better. And I think that's where I have much of a concern. Not so much that they're killing it, because there's going to be a bunch of stuff popping up. So that's my thought on it. You can always take it out to XML and put it in another system. You're fine. If you're a list, you're not going to lose everything now. Don't worry. I guess if I wanted to touch on the education stuff with Linden Lab, it does a boneheaded maneuver when they took it away. It's boneheaded now that they're going back selectively. If you look at any major technology company that knows what they're doing, initially their goal is to cater to. It's in their best interest to cater to educational sectors. It really is. I mean, if you look at Apple. They made their big thing about, making sure that classrooms had their technology at all points. And they still have that to an extent today. So, Microsoft did the same thing. Every kind of big technology company sees a very big merit in giving educational discounts, heavy discounts, to get educators in here, because it indoctrinates the younger users into the technology and gets it past that curve. It makes it mainstream. Linden Lab didn't do that. They had that educational thing that was really great, and I was very happy about it when they were doing it. And then they did that 180 and cut everybody off, and I said, that's going to come back and haunt them. It always does. It doesn't matter if it's Linden Lab or anybody else. Whenever you cut the educational sector off, you're cutting off your right foot. That's how it is. So them coming back and saying, cherry picking who they're going to give that discount to is probably adding insult to injury on top of it. So from the educator point of view, I expect them to look at them and go, yeah, right, no, and just walk away. Yeah, they need to get real is what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that comes into this, of course, is that, when the educators could not afford Linden Lab's prices, many of them have moved on to Jacadia and other open simulators. And something Linden Labs are having to face, discount or no, is that many of them are now quite happy elsewhere. It's almost as though the horse has bolted from the stable, and bringing them back, I would think, is going to be an uphill task, however they look at it.
Well, they did it to themselves, honestly. I mean, they cut off the whole, cooperation with OpenSim and trying to do the open source stuff a while back. And again, then they're boneheaded maneuver. Some of did the same thing with their viewers now, where they're saying, well, you can't connect to, OpenSim and us. They're doing the exclusionary tactics, and those tactics are coming home to roost. I mean, they did this to themselves. They shouldn't have done it, but they did anyway. Now they're paying the price. And it's just, I think what it is nobody, maybe not even Rodvik, is thinking in a long tail kind of fashion, an ecosystem kind of fashion, which is what SL or virtual worlds are. They're an ecosystem of people. You throw a stone in, it's going to ripple out. What they're thinking about is the stone. They're not thinking about how far out those ripples are going to go and what it's going to do when it comes back off the shore. And that's where they're getting into trouble. And that's how every virtual world I've seen so far has gotten themselves, forgive the terminology, their ass in a sling. Whether it be Bear.com, Blue Mars, or any of these other companies, they think about the stone but don't think about the ripples. And when the ripples come back and ricochet, they find themselves in a world of hurt. And it shouldn't be like that.
It's funny, a few months ago I asked for Rosedale in an interview he did in World, about interoperability and that. And he really, he didn't dismiss it. I mean, he took all the credit for open sourcing a lot of stuff in the first place. But he did say that, it was down to numbers. The pickup wasn't great, and it therefore wasn't in Second Life's, it wasn't worthwhile for Second Life to work on interoperability with a lot of scattered grids that didn't have many people in them. But I think my argument against that, of course, is if you add all those grids together, there are a lot of people in them. And also, as you say, it's the long tail, I suppose, is the right phrase, where those ripples go. If you start creating a walled garden and at a later date you realize you can't survive without bringing down the wall, you've got a lot of work to do bringing down that wall. So I kind of think they should have these sort of systems open, or at least a potential to have them open from the word go, so the wall can be opened or closed accordingly. Anyway,
the inability to have foresight is what the problem is. It's just, it doesn't matter what decisions you're making, it's the lack of foresight to see that coming. Now, how are my actions today going to ripple out and come back to me? And then they get to this point where they're a walled garden and they thought it was a good idea, until they see the simulator sales tanking, and they go, "Oh, what do we do now?"
Saffia, did you have something to say on that? I got the impression you were about to come in.
No, sorry, sorry. I think it's interesting. I think I'm not sure whether it's working in terms of timing. We don't know how long this has been going on, but it's kind of mid-year. The weird thing was they cancelled mid-year, and now they seem to be opening up again mid-year. They don't seem to be taking too much account of the academic cycle, which is a little depressing. Maybe it's a good time for hitting on next year's finance, but the trouble is, I think a lot of people have been put off by the toing and froing last time. I think it's so easy to lose trust and so hard to get it back again. That's always the trouble.
I think so, and that of course was one of the other issues that came up with the educators. They do work on the academic cycle and funding and everything else, and that is not the same as monthly invoicing by Linden Labs. They have to plan considerably further ahead than corporations do.
So maybe this is a good point for hitting for them to do things next year. I do wonder whether they're going to extend these prices to people who've gritted their teeth and stayed. I can think of several people like ICL, Imperial College, London, who've stayed. Places like the Mayo Clinic. Well, maybe you don't have to worry too much about costs with Mayo Clinic, but
oh yes, you do.
Cole Postman in the live stream chat actually said, I presume this is a fact. It says 2 Kent state regions have returned after a 3-month hiatus. According to somebody called Tyke Shepherd. So I do know the name Tyke, but can't place it offhand.
That's the person who does the regular thing on SLU about how many Sims have opened and how many Sims have closed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Right, yeah.
Well, Kent State.
It's interesting. At least the scuttlebutt seems to be that this olive branch was extended to recent departures, not EDUs and nonprofits that left some time ago. But I guess I would very much second what Will said on the whole. How this is being approached, how it is being presented, and the lab's apparent unwillingness to say we blew it in 2010, we handled it badly, and we need to turn it around. This is, I think, become such common knowledge in PR circles that the quickest way to get some credibility back is if you mess something up, is to say we did it wrong, we made the wrong decision. And to apologize for making the wrong decision, and to do that publicly rather than try to sweep it under the rug. So, how they handle this, I think, going forward is a big question in my mind. It's one thing to leak a piece of information, which I think this sort of did, but it's another thing to how is the lab going to handle this, as the reaction has clearly started to spread around the Second Life community.
I have a theory, whether it's accurate or not. And let me give you a broader background to it. I talked a couple of months ago, we were talking about griefing and in various blogs and trolls and extortion. And one of the issues, of course, is getting support from Linden Lab to deal with those things. And my theory, which encompasses that as well as this issue and a bunch of other issues, is that Linden Lab went through a process that an awful lot of organizations do in the business world, which is to sit down, do some strategic planning, look at the various things they are doing, and remove anything that isn't their core business. So activities, etc., that are simply overhead. They're expenditures, but they're not revenue producing. They aren't their core business. So if Linden Lab sees itself as the group of servers and the code providers to Second Life, then anything else, such as support, remember the governorship teams, the community support people who might know PR and how to deal with reversing decisions, all of those things are jettisoned so that they focus on what they have to focus on, and that generates revenue for the shareholders, but it also means that you make progress on your core business. The thing is that virtually every organization who has gone through that has jettisoned the outreach departments. So the people who actually work with the users or work with the customers or do the training or do the, in our case, Inworld governorship and support. And they always wind up a couple of years later reversing that decision. They realize that what they consider just overhead are in fact essential expenditures if you want a healthy organization and you want to stay close to your user base or your customers, and you actually want to be able to grow, because those departments were created because of a need in the first place. And they always go back and they reverse that decision. And I'm waiting for Linden Lab to get to the point where they either decide that, yes, we have to reverse that decision and actually bring those skills in-house, because I don't think they have those skills to fall on their sword, for example, in-house right now. They don't have it. They have no idea how to implement decisions which have PR disaster possibilities or communications related issues. They have no idea, and they need to staff that back up again. And I think they're going to have to reach a point where they make the decision to reverse the whole core business analysis review, because it's a disaster for almost everybody who does it.
Well, they may not realize it now, but the whole education thing, I don't think they realize it, that decision alone, to start cherry picking who they want back and giving discounts for. I don't think they realized that was going to create more negative PR than positive. That was going to do even worse of a job in getting money from back. They didn't realize that they've just shot themselves in the foot. They traded the gun for the bazooka at this point, and they're doing it with a smile. And I scratched my head and went, did nobody sit down at a table in there and say, that's probably not a good idea?
Because they don't have those skills. They don't have those people.
They don't have those skills, and that bothers me, because they're supposed to be selling the ship, and you say they need to get their core ideas together. We're talking about a company who is off making video games right now, and mostly wholesale neglecting their core flagship. So they don't have those skills. They don't have that train of thought of what is our core business. They're just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping something sticks and rekindles the magic they had here in a more controllable manner. That's all they're doing.
Yeah. Their core business if you were Linden Lab and said, what's our core business? What do we have to spend money on? Well, we have to spend money on hardware, and we have to spend money on coders. We don't have to spend money on all that fluff stuff. And that's what they're missing now, and that's why they can have a PR disaster like this, and that's why they can have.
They could just make it like a server thing and just say, like, here's a thing to let you run a server, you just pass a licensing fee. And that takes care of a lot of that overhead right there.
Yep.
A lot of it is just a long-term view again. I think I'm very tempted to bring in real life a bit here in the UK. You know, you have a government who certainly doesn't want to fall on its sword, but, you know, it's got this sword and it keeps cutting things. And, which is rather like Linden Labs, you know, it's got another use for the sword and we're too busy cutting things to fall on it. But, you know, I know things like the Federation of Small Businesses, the churches, the institutes of business and things are all criticising what the government is doing because it's short-term thinking. It's all about cuts, but not about, you know, the effect they have. You know, if they disempower people to the extent that they're not part of the economy, or they make people the posterity thing that they don't spend what they have got, then the economy is not actually going to grow again anyway, and they're suddenly realizing they're going to have more overheads coping with that than they're possibly saving, you know, with the cuts. And, you know, it's sort of, I don't know, maybe they're just thinking, what on earth can they mess up more in 4 years? But the parallel here with Linden Labs, and there must be other companies who do the same kind of thing, you know, is very strong. You know, the new things they're doing, well, expansion is great, but they are all sort of, you know, unproven, possibly short-term things. You know, when we look at the games on Facebook and the web and stuff like that, and in apps, you can never really be sure how long they're going to last. I mean, I think it's great that they're experimenting there, but with Second Life, they have a very long-lasting product. It hasn't scaled. It's not as big as it could be. You know, but the customer really is the bottom line. If they don't keep the customer happy, the customers are not going to create the viral momentum that they need to expand. And that, I think, is their failing. However many new things they do and however many ways in which, well, they say they're tweaking the viewer. I'm not quite sure tweak is the word I put on it sometimes. But, you know, however much they do all these things, they are not creating a viral environment where people are just dying to get into Second Life, and Second Lifers are dying to bring their friends in. I mean, that still exists for sure, but you know, I don't see much reading on the web, for example, that is people praising Second Life and saying, come in here. There are thousands of blogs all about what's happening in Second Life and new things that do happen in Second Life, but you don't feel that there's a message going out to the social networks and the greater web encouraging people to come in, or indeed making it easy to come in. And something actually I'd like to ask Will, while he's here, is we've mentioned this for a couple of weeks now, the new Pixie Viewer, which is in very early beta at the moment, but it allows you to go into OpenSim via a web page, or that is the intention. It's all coded in HTML5, so it will work on tablets, be they Apple or Android, or maybe even the whatever Windows call their idea of a tablet. And, you know, it should then be easy enough to put, you know, a hypergrid URL into the web and then literally go to a page that produces that world on a web space. Now, I prefer the idea that you'll have a button that will go fully immersive. I don't know if the web page needs to be as fully immersive as the world, because if people like the world, they will then download a client dedicated to the world. But have you come across Pixie Viewer at all, Will? I know you're on top.
I have, actually. I have used it a couple of times, actually, and played around with it. It looks like a basic version of essentially what advanced distributed learning has done with the virtual worlds framework, which is to say roughly the same deal, except that the ADL demo, and I can give a link in the chat in a minute here for that, but the virtual worlds framework, that's done by Lockheed Martin and open source, but it's just not reliant on anything else, just basically getting stuff done. But in that aspect, the ADL version that I saw, which wasn't open sim, but it was a virtual world collaborative sandbox, had far more options right out of the bat.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, and I was building and doing stuff in there without a hitch. As far as Pixie Viewer, it's good. It's very, very basic, but I give it the stage of, hey, it's alpha, so don't expect much. But I think these people need to learn how to do design for GUIs. I mean, it's kind of like following the same premise of Cloud Party's GUI design, which was horrendous. It's just, it needs to be cleaned up a lot better. Made simpler.
Yeah, I was curious because the interface on the alpha, that I went into test was it didn't mimic what we're used to in Second Life or OpenSim. Just had the big colourful window of icons for prims and stuff like that. But I was intrigued. I
hated me for that one.
I was intrigued, though, that they brought in the idea of introducing 3D printing and things, which seemed to be a real new departure. You select an object, put a bounding box around it, and then technically you can then print it out in 3D with the 3D printer. Now, that's something we haven't even seen.
I have.
Linden Labs even try.
I've seen it. It's actually, if I had to take a wild guess, it's actually based off of some open source code that was done in Minecraft, because they have the same exact bounding box for Minecraft. So you print stuff out on a 3D printer. So you create certain boxes in Minecraft based off whatever materials they set, and between that bounding box, they'll print the blocks out. They'll send it to a 3D printer, so it looks roughly like the same code, just applied to OpenSim. So it's really nothing extravagant to me. I mean, it might be new to everybody else, but I've seen that in the Minecraft area. So.
Well, just thinking back here to Second Life, although there's Inworlds and many other grids, of course, you look at art installations and things, and I bet you there's a huge market for people who would, those people that have 3D printers, would love to print out, some of those sort of out of these world sims and things that have literally been built. See, it wouldn't be the same experience, of course, but the idea that you could, I don't know, model a building in Second Life and then export it as a 3D model. I'd just love that to be, a ubiquitous plugin, really. I mean, down the road, I guess maybe it will be, but we'll have to see.
That'd be actually pretty fun, though.
Don't even want to think about the intellectual property issues that raises.
But think of the market for marketplace for Excite parts. You can print those things out. My God, they'll make a fortune, more than they actually make them. I can download it. Oh my God, I'm going to print that out right now.
I mean, when I first heard of 3D printing, a lot of this was to do with the Predator and Ian Hughes, talking about the things that you could put in as substrates, to actually print out foods using proteins and carbohydrate and stuff like that, depending on what the local resources were. So the local resources in the tropics are very different from in the Antarctica and the mid climates. And the idea was that you could manufacture foodstuffs. But already, I think it was last week's Metaverse Week in Review had a little clip on which had alarm bells ringing in my head. Because somebody has designing molecular substrates whereby you'll be able to print your own drugs. Now, of course, they're promoting it. They're promoting it as a thing of, you'll simply get a script from, instead of taking it to the pharmacy, your doctor will give it you and you'll download the components and print out your medicines.
Right.
Immediately I can see the other type of drugs, shall we say, home laboratories that are just use software and a 3D printer and a batch of molecules. But somebody has also already started printing out vinyl records. So, vinyl records have made a bit of a comeback recently, and now you can use a 3D printer to print out your own vinyl. And, I forgot what it was. There was something else rather incredulous I read about that is printable.
I was seeing something that's a bit like the old anarchist cookbook. for 3D printing, which was actually looking at printing guns.
Yeah, that was it, actually. In America, they've already got this problem. People that are not only printing out guns, but they're printing the ammunition.
And print ammunition. I can see the guns, but the ammunition too. That's wow.
And there's well, we know what America's like with guns. That is scary.
I know, I'm American. I'm not a nut about guns. I think that's taken out of proportion. It's built into the Constitution. They feel insecure. Let them have their e-peener and their penis enlargement gun, whatever. But personally, I'm a pacifist. So I don't make the sweeping. Some of them are crazy. Some of them are just militia. Some of them just like hunting, and some of them are in Congress and like to shoot caribou with semi-automatic rifles for an alternate reason.
Yeah. I'd like to just come back, swing back around just for a second on the education discount subject, and a thought occurred to me, and that is the discount was eliminated in 2010, and I'm trying to think of who is around at the lab who was around when that occurred, and the only person I can think of who's still there is Torley.
Yep.
And so there's an institutional memory issue here that I think is maybe a very significant issue in this whole business. There's nobody who remembers what happened.
Except for Torley.
Except for Torley. And we know, Torley's got his own
there's also there's Michael. He's been there nearly since the beginning. And I think Pete Linden has been there quite a long while. So there are some.
There are a few, yeah.
Not a huge number. And
it would depend on who was consulted as well. I mean, if they didn't go talk to Torley and Michael, and if Pete didn't know about it, but given he's their PR guy, you'd think, he should have been on top of that.
You think they would have consulted these old school, Linden Lab, people to go, hey, what happened when you were here? Was that a good idea? How were you guys doing it before? What would you change? They need to start talking to the people in there instead of just directing them.
Yeah, I guess my feeling is if Linden Lab had said, we're exploring with a few nonprofits and educational organizations the possibility of reinstating the discount. Stay tuned. Rather than the word leaking out that a select few had been approached. It's kind of like, it's one thing if you want to say, we're curious to find out if this would make a difference, versus, well, we're just going to send out some trial balloons and see what, we're going to throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah. And unfortunately, what sticks isn't what they want to stick.
Because they're playing elitist. It's an elitist view versus an open view.
That's
the elitist view is like saying we have hand selected this in this place, and we think you're good enough to become like the cool kids. And then they're looking at them going, no, they're not. Get lost. But if they
whether that's in fact the case, we don't know, because Linden Lab didn't issue a news release about it. They just sent out some letters, and the letters leaked, as is not too surprising. So it's kind of like, let's actually hear what their intention was, rather than us finding out that they have invited some select, recent departures to enjoy the old nonprofit ring. Anyway.
Bevan Whitfield, our friend in the on the TV channel chat room, has just drawn my attention to something. I almost loaded the images in, but had no way of broadcasting them today. Bot Girl has done 2 cartoons this week, which are absolutely great. If you go to www.botgirl.com on customer retention from Linden Lab, they're just 2 pictures, full of word balloons and dialogue, but they're killers. They are just great. So that's funny. Now, moving on a bit, actually, and talking of comics, which I suppose a picture with a word balloon is. Were you watching, Saffia, the clip, the guitar playing astronaut clip?
I wasn't. I was too busy getting ready for the Inworld segment of the show and moving cats around.
Right, indeed you were. Okay, well, I know I mentioned it before we went. It was an interesting clip, I thought. For those of you watching live who were tuned in before the Inworld section started, it was very interesting to the machinima because clearly this guitar-playing astronaut, there's a musical connection here, so it's music. But he'd also drawn in a very, old-fashioned style comic strip. So that the comic panel was coming up, and it faded out into live action machinima, and then to introduce the next section, a comic book panel came up, and then that faded into machinima. And having known what we've talked about in the past, both Quest of the Golden Prim and all that sort of stuff, and comic books, I thought it was fascinating to see a machinima that had actually been framed around. The idea of showing panels, and a few hours later fades in. And,
Well, I'll definitely go and take a look because yes, that sounds the sort of stuff I'm interested in. I actually was slightly late getting here today because I was at a meeting for Quest for the Golden Prim.
Oh.
And we now have a plan when we're going to relaunch it. We're going to relaunch it at the Fantasy Fair at the end of April. And we have a stall there because it is fantasy, really. And we're going to relaunch it at the end of April with at the Fantasy Fair, and then it will have its new website and be ready for audience participation. In some ways, a bit like the games that were associated with the Black and Mirror.
Right.
Depending on what the the storyline that week, you may either get a chance to shape what will happen next in the story by voting, or you can take part in games and competitions to win extra information or extra points to put into voting. So it's all looking good.
Great. So it takes the comic book format into, presumably it will still be a comic book as well, but it would just take it into that, vast uncharted territory.
Oh, the interactivity, yeah.
Well, not uncharted. You've done the Black and Mirror to start pioneering the way, shall we say.
So, yeah, I'm interested in seeing any more people who've done this sort of thing. Sounds good.
All right. Oh, new styles of machinima and games and everything. It's wonderful. For those of you watching this show live, by the way, we've also had the first two entries for the Reflections Machinima contest, which will be in the playlist immediately following this particular show. You can't see it in replay here, but if you're watching live, stay with us. We've got some great stuff coming up. Okay, I've got a couple of other events that I've just pulled out of the blogs from today. Today is the 9th anniversary of a sim, or I think it may be several sims, called Nova Albion. Are any of you familiar with these?
No, I saw it on Daniel's blog, but that's actually I've not heard of it.
Yeah. Well, apparently back on the 9th of March 2004, somebody called Haney Linden opened the official City Sims in Second Life, and it's been transforming ever since. But they're celebrating a 9th anniversary today, starting at 2 p.m. SLT. And that's as a sim called Mirror Mare, M-I-R-A-M-A-R-E. If any of you want to check that out, thought I'd get that in. And oops, I'll come back to that one. Seem to have got it a bit mixed up. A press release, right? I guess we all know that the Burning Man Festival in the real world in America has a Second Life component called. It used to be called Burning Life, but it's now known as Burn 2 because it's yet another thing that Linden's, the company at least, are not officially involved in. A great number of Linden personnel are. They are having on March 22nd to 24th, which is about a week away, a Burnal Equinox, indeed. And again, this is a press release that danielvoyager.wordpress.com carefully reprinted for us on Friday. And if you're interested in this, it will be on at noon Second Life time, Friday, March 22nd. And the sim you want for this is Burning Man Deep Hole. So if you look for Burning Man Deep Hole on the map, there may be a dash between Burning Man and Deep Hole. I've got Waddy Slills on screen full of sort of code representing spaces, so it's not the easiest of things to read. But Burning Man and the events they do on the player, as they call it in Second Life, tend to be very interesting. And certainly, I think it was last year, for example, Philip Rosedale was in there doing something, all very unannounced. The sort of the connections those folk have are pretty good, and they're always doing very experimental stuff there too. So I'm trying to get my dates right. I think that is actually next Friday, isn't it? 22nd. So indeed. So good job, I've got it in today, so to speak. And here we are from the Living in the Modern World blog. This one is actually giving voice to 5 years of storytelling and readying a festival. There is, let me just mouse over this for you. Oh dear, I haven't got it. There is I think we can call it an institution called the Sianchai Library in SL. And they are specialised in storytelling events and things. And they're celebrating 5 years Inworld, and they're starting today, St. Patrick's Day, with stories from all around the world. And you can get to them on a sim called Imagination Island. I think that's the sim name. So it starts with a birthday bash today, and goes on for about 6 p.m. SLT, with it's quite a lot here. If you want more information on this, I suggest you go to Modem World. That's MODEM World, all one word, .wordpress.com, and just look up the recent blog saying giving voice to 5 years of storytelling. So that should be a good one too. And I did have one other link here, and I've opened it, and I'm not entirely. I will come back to that when I can actually make head or tail of it. I think I've got a link that goes to the wrong place. Isn't it lovely when you're reading out straight from your links list? We also have some more research in the week. Non-action video game playing may enhance specific cognitive skills. This was another interesting bit of research. We had something similar last week, didn't we, about age research. This one actually reckons that if you opt for video game playing of the non-action kind, non-action, folks, then your cognitive skills may improve. So there, I guess Second Life.
I can only hope.
In other news, thinking makes you think more.
There you go.
Can I take one quick moment? I'd like to wish Bevan a happy Res Day. It's her 6th Res Day today.
Oh, is it?
Happy Res Day.
Miss Bevan Whitfield is having a Res Day today, so I'm going to go give her presents and cookies and stuff later.
Oh, happy Res Day, Bevan.
Yes, happy Res Day,
Bevan. You doll. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'd like...
She's thanking us all very much. She's in the TV chat room, although she's not in World here. So
that's interesting though, because she has a twin. Now that I know that today is her 6th Res Day, I also know someone else whose 6th Res Day it is. So Bevan actually has a twin in CJ Writer, who was the previous deputy editor of Prim Perfect.
That's awesome.
So obviously separated at res, these two.
You better get those virtual birthday cards out as well, and I think for your list today, eh?
Yes, there needs more people to have parties. Just any reason to have a party. That's what we need.
Well, there's lots of... I told you a couple of weeks ago, I think, that the Java Jive which was CJ's jazz club in Seraph City, was closing, and in fact it's closing today with a day of parties. So if you feel like going and dancing anywhere, I would strongly recommend popping into the Java Jive sometime today.
Awesome. Closing down for a day of parties.
Yeah.
I wish my town was like that.
There is another anniversary happening around now. The actual date, I think the official date, although they were there before they sort of said, hey, we're launching, is Caledon. Caledon is 7 years old. As of officially April 1st, but they started their celebrations a couple of weeks ago. So if anybody wants to go see a fabulous steampunk role-play environment that has lasted for 7 years because they're brilliant, type Caledon into the map and go visit one of the sims and see what's going on.
I actually have their landmark in my folder. I'm going to go down and play now.
There you go.
You know, I wonder how many projects, not in Second Life, but anywhere, sort of launched themselves on April the 1st. Without considering the implications of the birthday notices they will keep sending out. Just a thought.
I was going to say, I think that this now would be a good year, a good point in its history for Second Life to run a really major outreach campaign. If they could get the people into, I would say, a campaign called Take a Second Look at Second Life, because it's going to be 10 years old. Yeah. It's a really good time to tell people to come back and see what's been happening, what's going on.
Yeah, so much. They have to be sincere to do it, though.
You should try and sell that to Linden Labs. Take a second look at Second Life. That is a nice one, actually.
It's a brilliant tagline. That needs to be in there like right now.
And of course, have we any more news on the birthday? Come to think of it, it will be an independent birthday as far as we know. I don't know where Linden Labs are doing one, but there will be the community SL10B, won't there?
Is that the sound of crickets that I hear?
I'm pretty sure I hear crickets. I'm pretty sure that there's a circle on a calendar that's sort of like a week or so away. That crickets. It's quite possible, Mal, that if you ask this question at a slightly later date, you might
have
get an answer.
Slightly fuller answer.
Indeed. Okay. Well, next week, top of the agenda, presumably, will be something to do with the
a tiny little event coming up in a few.
And I have tightened the grip on my cushion.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's only 1 week away.
Yes, you see, you got that reference.
I am lost on the I am totally lost on the crickets bit, but
crickets would be the sound of silence, Mel.
Okay.
That's how you can hear crickets, because there's no other sound.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You hear pins dropping all around.
So tune in next week, folks, for the silence.
It will be very exciting. Yes.
Silence will fade next week. And all the news withheld this week will emerge. Well, some of it at least.
I was going to show off while I'm here. I want to show off my cats, because Tara gets to show off her cats.
Yeah, so, we have a big one at the side of the stage here.
Right, sitting on the arm of my chair here is Edward, who I'm very excited about. If I tell you that he's 2 days old and he's already bigger than my ordinary cats,
he's a megapus.
See, he's a megapus. He's my very first megapus, and I'm so excited.
Ah, yes. Okay.
And he's a very handsome chap, I think.
He is.
Cream and white tabby with blue eyes.
And boo-boo ears.
And boo-boo ears, yeah. Yeah,
and so if you bring him along next week, he'll need a chair all to himself.
Absolutely. But at the end of the row is my star, because this is a megacat, a megapus that predates the megapusses. It's a very special present to me. At the SL9B, Callie and Equinox, so the people behind Kitty Cats, put out some giant cats as sort of props and things, the giant versions of their kitty cats. One of them was called Queen Saffia, and she wandered around the cake stage. And Callie sort of rezzed it when we were launching the birthday. And afterwards, I said, what's happened to Queen Saffia when the stage blew up? I hope she was okay. And Callie kind of said, oh, she's in my inventory somewhere. And I assumed that was like, the dog's gone to live in the country. We thought that basically Queen Saffia was no more. So I said, oh, okay. And then the other night, Callie said to me, I found Queen Saffia in my inventory. Would you like her? And what could I say but yes?
Oh, yes.
So I have got Queen Saffia, who is now wandering around my garden and talking to the weasels who live there. So I'm so thrilled to have her. It was so kind of Callie to find her and give it to me.
Yes.
Let me tell you a story which is sort of along the lines of animals, but is more about the server code and what happens to the mainland when Linden Lab makes changes. I have a parcel on the mainland where I have a few horses. And, I actually have a lot of horses. I don't count them, because if I count them, I have to admit I have a problem. In any case, Wednesday morning I got up, and they do most of their code changes on Tuesdays, I think. The restarts. So Wednesday morning I woke up and I opened my email, and there was a long series of messages from Second Life. And as I opened them, each of the messages was an object returned message. Each of the objects was one of my horses, and they were all being returned from Sims up to 2 Sims away from where I actually live. I counted 18 before I logged on. I got another 6 once I arrived, so that was 24. I got more messages as the day progressed. When I started to pull them out of Lost and Found, I mean, it's very nice of them to, that these were all going to returned parcels. I hope there's no more out there. Some of them rezzed upside down. A great many of them rezzed hundreds of meters in the air and started to fall to the ground. I mean, if you think that raining fishes and frogs is freaky, trust me, raining equines is dangerous. And they and I have no idea what they were doing. I have one kitty cat who had stayed there but was walking at a 45-degree angle. It was an interesting day. Anyway, I don't know what it is they do in the code or why it affects mainland the way it does, but something very strange happens every week once this happens. And collecting horses that have gone walkabout was my day on Wednesday. Thought I'd share that.
I want to see it rain horses.
Didn't someone offer a wonderful equus a Latin name for
yes,
that, for your
she
critters?
Did. She did, and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't quite Pig Latin, but it was precipitous equus or something like that.
That was it. Equus precipitous. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I mean, seriously, and a great many of my horses have wings, so it sort of made sense, except they weren't flapping as they fell out of the sky.
I mean, I randomly see horses flying across Sims and stuff from the neighbors, but I've never seen it rain horses yet. Yeah. I'd almost pay to see that one.
Yeah, and of course I didn't pull out my camera. It's one of my strange peculiarities. I'm known for taking photographs in World, but to me it's a conscious decision to go out with my camera and take photographs. I never take photos of things as they happen. It just never occurs to me. I was too busy catching them in a giant basket as I ran around my parcel trying to save them from broken legs. So I didn't actually take any photos of them flying through the air or falling.
I know that feeling. I never remember the photo when I need to take it, and then when I go in to take photos, nothing to photograph.
Exactly.
Nothing happens around here.
I kind of wonder what happens if this actually happens to a pig breeder.
Oh, can you imagine? Or birds or dragons to have them.
And pigs fly, I was thinking. Never mind. Actually, what's the connection here, Will? I'm seeing you in World, of course, and you have a tag over your head saying Kitten and the Prince. So there's a kitty cat connection here, perchance?
There is.
Oh, there's also an avatar on your head now.
as Sisop just reses around on me. Hey, Sisop, how are we doing, sweetie? Glad you can make it. Do you want to sit on my lap? All you had to do was ask.
This is a PG show.
Yeah, this is
what
happens.
Go any further than that. Anyway, the Kitten Prince. Actually, there's a group in here that I'm part of called Kingdom of Yarnia, which goes back to pre-SL. The thinking was during the days when I was in active worlds and just working in technology alone and multimedia, I had a thing where I was constantly on the spot for being, the smart guy. Whenever they needed like the technology and they needed the high-end stuff, it was me in front of boardrooms and stuff. And being on a spot like that, for any amount of time, repetitiously, you get mentally burned out. So what I ended up doing was, there would be days where I was so dog tired that I couldn't think straight that I couldn't get a single word out of my mouth. I was like just mumbling all the time. And I thought about it one day and I realized that the easiest word to say when you're that tired starts with the letter M. The shortest vowel you got is E, ending with W, which puts your lips back together. Mew. And that became the kickstart to this whole running joke of kittens and how tired you are is equal to how cute you are or how much you don't care anymore. So it just kept blowing out of proportion until I got to SL, where I would just say I'm not cute enough for this, and that's my way of saying I can't be bothered to think about it because I'm too mentally exhausted. Well, it kept exploding, and extrapolating past that until I met my best friend Julie Diesel, and Sandland Texan, and they took it to the next extreme, which was, we're in SL, we can all be kittens. We can actually just pretend to be kittens, and the cuter and smarter you are, the less you actually give a damn. So that's pretty much how it turned into. The Kingdom of Yarnia is this big old sim of, place where we go to relax and just, let our brain, expand a little bit and just stop worrying about being on the spot. But you'll find stuff like giant yarn balls and, kitten avatars running around and swing sets and, we have a blast over here, but it's generally means the opposite of what people think. It means that I can't be bothered. Like, I'm totally go away. I can't be bothered. Can't think. No smartness is coming out of me right now. The smaller and cuter I am, the more I can't be bothered.
Well, I just have one. I have one question. If it's the Kingdom of Narnia, does that mean that that your landing spot is inside a closet?
No, it's in a laundry basket. It's Yarnia.
Oh, Yarnia. Ah.
It's much yarn. So the most cute I've been in that respect was one day Julie was out in Texas to see Jason, her real life fiance now. They met in SL a couple years ago, but now they're engaged. She was out to go visit him for a little bit, and she came back, and there was like 50-foot yarn balls in the front yard, and giant blankets everywhere, and like huge Pop-Tart boxes. And in the middle of all this was just this little kitten, this tiny little kitten, and it was me. And she's like, well, are you all right? I'm like, you cannot understand the amount of I can't be bothered right now. She's like, well, judging from the size of the yarn balls and the giant Pop-Tarts, I'm going to say you don't want to be bothered. I'm like, I am so cute for this right now.
I spend most of my downtime when I'm not on air anyway in here as a cat avatar. I love it. It's very lightweight, travels fast. It's mesh. It looks like a great thing. And everything else. And I've suddenly really, I just love it. But now I've got an even more complex excuse for it, haven't I? I just can't be bothered.
It's my way of saying I can't be bothered. The smaller and cuter I am, the less responsible I have to be. And that's pretty much what it boiled down to. So that's like the alternate side of my personality where, like, if I'm just totally burned out and I can't be bothered to, like, talk to NASA or anybody on the phone, I just go, I'm too cute for this. I just hang up. I can't be bothered.
If I could get the lips moving, I'd actually do a show one week as my pussycat, but I'll stick to the humanoid version for now.
That would be amazing. That's what that would be. I would show up as a cat. I got my cat avatar ready to go.
Actually, I don't know. Maybe we should film something somewhere separate from this at some point, which is all cats talking.
Well, it's cats. I mean, we don't expect their lips to move. It's just cats.
Well, actually, I think I've got a HUD that can force the lips to move anyway. So
we can all sit on couches and just be like cats curled up next to Saffia's cats. Just do a cat episode.
The perfect week in review.
The perfect week in review. Like,
or something.
What do you think? Well, can't be bothered. Move on.
Oh, love it. Okay, well, I think we're beginning to run out of steam a bit here, actually. We're all time to go off and find our little bowls of milk to lap. Sorry. Let's sort of go round the table. Let's go round the chairs, so to speak, and sort of have a little wrap up of. Let's go back to honour. Anything you look forward to this week, or anything else on your mind that you'd like to share?
I'll go back to the new builds coming up at the Leia Sims, because there are 20 Sims being built on at the moment, which is like me in front of a candy counter. It's just very exciting. And if you want to see how it develops and see some new people doing work, there's some beautiful stuff coming up. So just type Leia into the map and click on one of the Sims and go see what's going on.
Great. LEA. Capital letters, everybody. It's very easy, and then you can take your choice of numbers when you get that far. Okay, great. Yeah, great stuff going on there. And also, I'd remind you, of course, to if you haven't checked out the fashion fair yet, this is the last day of some of those builds. So get over there as well, because it's not art, it's a fashion fair. But when you see some of the builds, it's art too, if you see what I mean. Will, anything else you'd like to share before we disappear back over to Week in Review?
The only other news I heard about is that robot that was supposed to be built in 9 months, but it's probably another topic to talk about in detail later. That's about it, man. Other than, I'm going to resume being cute after the show.
Okay, Saffia. Now what's on Designing Worlds tomorrow? You haven't said that yet.
I haven't. No. It's a really gorgeous show tomorrow. We're going to Calascaladon. We've been there once before. They've redesigned the place. They've converted some of the Sims into open spaces and facing up to the challenge of actually working with very few prims, but you will not notice the difference. It's still as beautiful as ever, and we get a chance. We have a long boat trip round. You see some of the most beautiful. It's not one of our more talky shows. It's actually a sit and watch and listen, and it's absolutely lovely. And also, hopefully, coming out before next weekend is going to be an issue of Prim Perfect.
Great.
And the main topic of it is going to be art.
Oh,
so we've got an article on the LEA by Honor. We've got interviews with artists like Bruno and Marcus Inkpen and Shani Azali. And we've got all our usual articles like there's quite a lot of stuff on textures, how textures are made, how to use textures, and where to go and get some really good and unusual textures as well. We've got several people talking about different texture stores. And there's another article on mesh and how to build in mesh. This is going to look at how you can actually use mesh things that have been brought into World and actually use those to build with. So there's lots of stuff. It's going to be a really good issue.
Now, I know people can go to, I guess, the Prim Perfect blog for that, and then they get redirected to its issue or Calimi or whatever it is.
That's right. It's Calimi.
But there is an Inworld edition too, isn't there? Do people have to join the group for that?
No, they can join the Subscriber-matic. If they join the Subscriber-matic, they'll just get details of Designing Worlds shirts, Happy Hunting shows, and Prim Perfect whenever it comes out. Or they can just go to the Prim Perfect headquarters and pick up a copy there. But generally speaking, it's easy enough to subscribe. You'll find subscribers all over. In every good furniture store will have a Prim Perfect subscriber, and you can just join through that, and then you'll get your copy. The advantage of having the Inworld magazine is it has gifts. We're pretty unique among Second Life magazines in that as you leaf through it, there are gifts. There are things that will help you build your own skybox. There's going to be a mesh thing for you to play with. I'm not quite sure what the mesh thing is, but there's going to be a mesh thing for you to play with and try out all the ideas that are in the article. And then there's things like a treat TV if you need one. There's all sorts of little things in there for you to find.
I've got to go through my back issues again. You know, I keep forgetting that because I tend to download the PDF version, and then when it's on my hard disk, I then send it to my Kindle. So I read it on the Kindle, which is a natural home for it.
It's a lovely place to read.
It's a lovely designed, magazine that just feels right on a e-reader. But of course, nothing dropped out at me.
We haven't yet been able to work out a way of doing that. If you want to get the gifts, you have to get the Inworld issue.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to be reading it twice, Inworld and Out. Okay, so I think we can now turn to Tara for your roundup of anything else.
I think I ran through everything that was on my list. Oh, wait a minute! No, there was one other item that I missed earlier, and that is that Linden Lab. We were certainly raking them over the coals on the whole education thing, but they have actually posted a blog post a couple days ago about the fact that the new banner ads that have appeared on SecondLife.com will be available for Second Life merchants to purchase and have banners run. So they're still working on details. It's not ready for prime time yet, but it's interesting that it has taken almost 10 years for them to reach that point.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
10 years to get to the point of banner ads. Like the rest of the internet's like banner ads are yesterday. They're just now coming to that.
Oh, yes.
Who's running their marketing department at this point? If they think banner ads is a good idea.
Hey, folks, we're 10 years old and we're just going to introduce banner ads.
How about a blast from the past, boys and girls? Let's go back to the 90s. Who's running? They need to be fired. That's who it is.
Indeed. And I just wanted to knowing that this is being posted at various places, this show is being posted for people to watch at times other than when we're actually recording. I just might point out that we are in Chilbo Sim, which is on mainland, and the show starts at 12 noon on Sundays every week. And you're welcome to join us for the live show if you feel like it. Call up your map, type in Chilbo, and look for the northwest corner where you're likely to see a cluster of green dots. And we promise you won't be dropping in on pony sex.
However, you might be dropping in on my chair if I'm in McMillan.
Yeah, we might engage in some elven storytelling, however.
That would be cool. So, as long as there's snaps.
Talking of magazines, it's very annoying sometimes getting IMs while you're live. And so I've just received the latest issue of Avenue magazine, so I'll give them a plug. Since they've just sent it to me, I won't res it at the moment, but I've just got it. Okay, well, for those of you watching us live, we're going to be rejoining the Metaverse Week in Review for the sort of clips roundup of the week, really. Starting off, we got Fuchsia Nightfire's Fantasyland, events on Solaris Island, Trill Zapatero.
Zapatero.
Yeah, opening. And what else have we got? Well, we've got a thing, Noki Yuita. This is a portfolio from Burn 2 and LEA, in fact. Clip called Explanation Number 6, a bit more on the Topophonia sound project, which I've still to actually visit, and Vessel's Dream. All various sort of nice sort of artsy sort of stuff. The two first contributions in for LEA's, sorry, not LEA, University of Western Australia, UWA's Reflections machinima content. There's two of them. One's called Reflections by Carol. It's not showing me her surname. And the other is La Sacre de Printemps, which is French, if you didn't guess.
Yeah, it's French for the rite of spring.
I was going to say, I knew Printemps was spring.
Yeah, it's the rites of spring. It's the ballet. The name of the ballet.
We have two that assume called Baja Nort and another one called Pescara. And then there's some music clips. We've got a machinima for the Ghost of Tom Joad, which is a Bruce Springsteen song, and a new music machinima for a track called True Colours, and various live performances. Mr. Hifenja, Tamara Sands, who is absolutely wonderful. A chap called Griff Bamaison, who was new to me, but very bluesy sort of stuff. And a classic track by Von Johin called Senor. And rounding it all up, there is a 48-minute performance of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night in Second Life. So do stay with us if you're watching live to enjoy those, or do in fact go to metaverseweekinreview.com at any time, and you can see the last 4 weeks in constant replay, including this show, of course. And this show itself, if you just want the Inworld chat, you can find replays on YouTube. It's under MBTV or Mal Burns accounts. So with that, I'm going to call it a wrap and head to the clips. I'd like to thank Tara, as ever. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And of course, as always, Saffia.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm glad to say she's a frequent visitor, but many thanks to Honor McMillan.
It was my pleasure.
And many thanks also to Will Burns.
Absolutely ecstatic and charmed.
And I'm not even going to pronounce the Inworld name. I forgot, it's 2 hours now. I forgot.
Aeonix, Aeon. I'm going to just say that once and send you as an MP3.
Aeonix.
Just say my last name and end with Hicks. We're good.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out where Will Smith came from, but that's another story.
My friend Journey Blue actually calls me Master because of Master Will from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm like, where'd that come from? So now she calls me Master, and everybody thinks it's some dirty kind of thing, and it's not. It's from Fresh Prince.
Bevan's in the channel says she can't pronounce it either, so I'm not the only one.
That's all right. You should hear what Mal does to Lapisian's name.
Well, if there's one thing that is, it is very odd. I mean, it does happen in real life too, but especially in Second Life, you end up with somebody on the couch or somebody you're talking with, and you look at their avatar name and you think, fine, and carry on talking. And then when it comes to pronouncing it, you go, yes, well, I'm joined by, what? Yeah, people do invent interesting avatar names, and they're not always easy to pronounce. But that's a whole other story. That's life in the metaverse for you. Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching. We will be back again, same time, same place next week. I hope you've enjoyed this chat part of the show, and we're now going to head on back to the Metaverse Week in Review.